Hey friends, my name is Amy Rebecca. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it is your first time here. If you are new and you're in the mood for some festive fun, then now would be a great time to subscribe to my channel because I'm right in the midst of doing Vlogmas. That said, this video is not going to be festive in any way, shape or form. This is episode 2 in my new series called Crazy Tales from Kuwait, where I share some of my wildest and in some instances most terrifying stories about when I lived in Kuwait that I was quite frankly too scared to tell you guys at the time. I look crazy pale in this lighting, which is kind of funny because I overdid my foundation today and in real life I'm quite orange. It's funny how lighting works like that. Today's tale from Kuwait is not going to be one long story like it was last time, beginning to end. We're going to be talking about different observations and like mini stories all circling around one theme, and that theme is going to be my apartment. So I've got some fun little tidbits, some little stories that were wild, and one that was particularly scary. In fact, some might say downright horrifying, that I will save until last. So buckle up because it's going to be a crazy ride. If you guys were subscribed to me way back when I lived in Kuwait, or even if you've subscribed since then and you've sifted through and looked at some of my old videos, you may have seen my Kuwait apartment tour video where I did a whole walkthrough of the apartment that I lived in at the time. That video was so highly requested, but I was really nervous about making it because the truth is, I freaking hated my apartment. I hated the apartment itself, I hated the whole building complex, and I hated the whole conditions that I was under while I was living there. But by the time I put that video out, I was already receiving pretty extreme hatred on all of my other Kuwait videos on a daily basis. So I felt like I was in a catch-22, and I was younger then. I would have done things very differently if I was doing it now as a 30-year-old woman who cares way less about what strangers on the internet have to say about me. But I felt like I couldn't say anything bad about this apartment building or people would jump down my throat. And I know a lot of people could like see through the dry way that I was describing this place. There is no natural light, but hey, doesn't that bright red kitchen really give a little bit of light of its own? I mean, it didn't really even need to say it was terrible. You could see it was terrible. And I still had loads of people in the comment section telling me that I was a terrible person and that if I didn't like it, I should just go home, and that in my country, I wouldn't be able to live in somewhere so fabulous and all these wild things. But the truth is, when I got my employment contract from the people I was employed by in Kuwait, the living situation was sold to me very differently. Not only did they send me pictures of an apartment that looked nothing like mine, I mean, they made it look like I was going to be in a luxury apartment. They really upsold the whole like having 2 swimming pools and a gym, and they showed me pictures of these apartments that were like so well decorated and, you know, maybe not to my taste, but nice, like a nice quality of living, and also told me that they put 2 teachers per apartment. Fine, I don't mind having a roommate. When I got there, it was so far removed from what they had sold me. It was actually 3 people per apartment, which was fine because it was a 3-bedroom apartment. To be completely honest, it was kind of cramped to be living with people you didn't choose to live with. You know, having a roommate who's a friend and moving in with them under cramped conditions is fine, but complete strangers when you have so little space is kind of, it's different. And it looked nothing like the pictures they had sent me. Most of the furniture, aside from being a complete eyesore, was broken. Our TV never worked, my wardrobe was broken, and they said they would give us a Hoover, but that didn't work. And I can guarantee you there will be some people who try and dive into my comment section on this video and say, you should be grateful that you got this for free. But no, that's not how this works. They didn't let me live in that apartment as like a gift to me. It's not because they were being particularly generous. That was part of my employment contract. I was working for part wages and part housing. And the housing they provided me with was not on par with the housing that they had sold me when I got my contract and what they told me it would be. Like, now I look back at it and I just laugh. Even at the time when I was living there, it's one of those things you have to laugh to stop yourself from crying, because for the first 5 months that I lived there, I had no hot water. So I'd have to take cold showers every day. And when they finally fixed the hot water in my bathroom, the hot water went off in all of the other rooms in the apartment. So then my roommates didn't have any hot water. So we just had to have turns of having access to hot water. Also, I used to have my electricity would just cut out randomly in my room, and you would just hear it pop, and then you'd smell like party poppers, which always really concerned me because nobody wants to be messing around with electrics. I couldn't figure out why it was short-circuiting all the time, because I assumed that was what was happening. Something was making it blow. I had this built-in sink in my bathroom with like a little space underneath, like it was hollow underneath, and I used to keep all my cleaning supplies and stuff under there. And one day I was doing a really deep clean, and so I got right under there and I was cleaning, and I went to look up and there were wires hanging down under my sink. Underneath, mind you, my sink that leaked. And they were live wires, and that's why my electricity kept cutting out, because anytime the switch that was attached to those wires was on when I turned the taps on, then obviously the water would get into the wires and everything would just go I'm laughing, but I could have died. So now let's get into some specific stories about my apartment in Kuwait and the wild things that went on there. Not long after we moved in, one day the gas cooker just stopped working. Now, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in the UK there's a gas line. If you use gas in your house for your central heating or for your cooker or whatever, then it comes from the gas line, and then you pay a bill to the gas people every month depending on how much you've used. I just assumed that was how gas worked in general, but it's not. Because we went down to reception and we told the guy, like, hey, our cooker's not working. And he said, oh, well, you're just out of gas. And I was like, what do you mean we're out of gas? What we didn't realize was there is no gas line in Kuwait. You buy these, like, bottles of gas, and then you go in and attach them to your cooker, and that's how the gas works. And this made me very uncomfortable. I'm sure they've checked it, I'm sure it's safe, but the idea of having an entire bottle of gas next to a cooker that you have to install yourself seems like you could die. All it takes is to just not plug something in correctly, and either you poison yourself to death in your sleep, or you go to like the cooker and you blow up the entire apartment building. Like, it's a big responsibility to have to install your own gas every few months. Maybe if you grew up that way it doesn't seem like such a big deal, but to me, it freaked me out. So it took several days for us to get the gas tank, because the guy at the bakala who sold the gas kept telling us like, oh, inshallah tomorrow, and it like never came. We couldn't cook anything for that week. And then when it did come, we set it up, but the gas seemed to be kind of low. Like it wouldn't turn on the same way it had turned on before, which is obviously a concern. We're dealing with gas. One of the guys who worked in the apartment building said he would come up and take a look at it for us, and his way of testing to see if we had a gas leak was to take a lighter out of his pocket, light it, and hold it up around the gas tank. Just like, okay, well, if this thing explodes and we all die, then you do in fact have a gas leak. Look, the fact that I survived all of these occurrences, I'm very grateful. The final story I have to tell you about my apartment building is actually even more terrifying than almost being blown to smithereens by a man in his lighter in my kitchen. And that was finding out that a strange man was letting himself in to all of our apartments. So like I said, the people I worked for owned these apartments, and then they would let the teachers who worked for them live in them. Well, they wouldn't let us. They actually made us. We weren't allowed to live anywhere else, which kind of sucked. Some would say, not me, because you can get sued for defamation. But some would say that these people were sketchy AF. Anyway, one day we're at work. One of the teachers is at home, she's ill. This never happens because if you are ill, you are at a really high risk of just being fired the next day. That almost happened to me once when I had the flu. I was told to come into work if I valued my job. So I went in with the flu. But she was really injured. I can't remember what happened to her. She had to go to the hospital and then she went back home to recover. So the rest of us are at work, she's at home, and she sends a message to the group WhatsApp that we have, and she says, can anybody explain to me why Bob, that's not his real name, just let himself into my apartment with a key. Now, Bob was someone who worked for the school. Nobody knows what this man's actual job was. He was kind of just like the errands guy. Like, if something was broken, they would maybe fix him to go and look at it. Like, he would drive people around if they needed to go to appointments during school hours. Like, he was a bit of a jack of all trades. So yeah, she sends this message like, why does Bob have a key to my apartment and why is he letting himself in the middle of the day? Casually. Obviously, everyone was very concerned about this news. Bob, this random man who works for the school in a capacity that no one understands, has a key to this woman's apartment and is letting himself in the middle of the day. The owners of the school eventually responded, because obviously a lot of people raised this as a very concerning issue, and their response was basically like, there are apartments. If we want someone to go in there in the middle of the day, that's our choice. We come to find out this man has keys to all of our apartments and that he has potentially been going in and out of all of them. My friend actually at one point, I don't remember exactly what she did, if she like put the underwear on a doorknob or put the underwear somewhere so that she would know when she came home from work if someone had like been in her room and disturbed this underwear that she had left out. I think she was thinking underwear because maybe if he saw the underwear he would be like, I'm not getting involved with someone's underwear, and he would just leave. Anyway, she came home one day, the underwear was completely moved. He had been in her room and he'd been like touching her underwear. Gross. Honestly, I could sit here and keep going. I have so many more things that I have to say on this theme, but I do appreciate that this video is probably getting a little bit long, maybe a little bit ranty. I'm really enjoying making these videos because, like I said earlier, when I lived in Kuwait, I was younger. I wasn't so sure of myself. I was a lot more easily intimidated, and having all of these people in my comment section all day just like attacking me for anything vaguely negative I said, even sometimes when I didn't even say anything negative, it made it really difficult for me to air these kinds of stories because I was so afraid of the backlash. But hey, I am 30 now. I have finally realized that I have every right to tell these stories. A lot of you really enjoy them. I enjoy making them. And if people have a problem with them, then that says more about them than it does about me. Because to this day, I have still never said anything disparaging about Kuwait. I've just told the things that have happened to me. And if people don't like it, then that's fine. There are literally billions of other videos that you can go and watch that you would probably enjoy more if you don't enjoy this kind of content. It's not a cult, you can leave if you don't like it. But hopefully most of you did like it. If you did enjoy this video, then please go ahead and give it a thumbs up to let me know. If you have any like specific Kuwait related questions that you think you'd like me to make a story time out of, then let me know in the comment section down below. I have a bunch more things that I am very excited to tell you guys about. But until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember that I love you all so much. You are enough just as you are, and I will see you guys tomorrow.